So, there are estimated to be 577,000 deaths roughly in the year 2012 from cancer. Until the idea of genetic engineering, surfaced, there people around the world with diseases such as like cystic fibrosis and cancer were starting to lose hope. And this is, a way of making our genes better, a way of manipulating them to make our bodies function better. And so, with that, we have a lot of hope and progress that could be in the future. So, the biggest thing in this is the government and how they're going to decide to use this and control it. But it's up to the young minds of today to pursue genetic engineering and its benefits on humans. So, I plan to cover how genetic engineering is safe, who's going to be doing the genetic engineering, how the government is going to control it, how it basically doesn't do any collateral damage because it targets just those cells, and lastly, how it could be used for transplants. So, genetic engineering, like I said, is a way of manipulating our genes to make our bodies work better. So, genetic engineering consists of different therapies such as gene therapy and genetic screening for infants. Um, Basically, the idea of gene therapy is replacing uh, malfunctioning genes, such as, say, cystic fibrosis. They would go in and take out the bad genes and put like a correct copy of that gene in place. So, another idea is the expansion of life, which they basically slow down the dying process, so it makes you live longer. Um, yeah, with all these therapies at stake, we have to keep in mind that the knowledge gained from this is so much. There's so much out there with this idea that without it, we're not going to be improving. So, genetic engineering is safe because it only targets those cancerous cells. So, with cancer patients going into chemo kills even healthy cells. So with this therapy, the whole idea is that it avoids that collateral damage, which is super important. And of course, along with all these pros, there are so many cons that go along with it, and that's why it hasn't been pursued thus far. The biggest idea, of course, is that the idea of disorder would slowly melt away because people are arguing that we all have problems, and why should we be able to fix this person? Maybe they were meant to be born that way. It's kind of that idea of playing God that really bothers people. Um, yeah, everyone is disabled in some way, so and it can also harm like fetuses. With mothers that want to get genetic screening, it can hurt the baby to get that. And there are also arguments that some patients, they have to be injected to do gene therapy. They have to be injected with this adenovirus, and it has killed patients in the past. So that's another big thing. But the big thing was the perception of disorder and how that would cause problems. And the biggest thing to me, and why it's why I stress it, is cancer to me takes away so many lives each year, and the idea that this could take it away, that this could eventually be a cure for cancer, is too much to ignore. And I think there are cons to everything, and I think these are overlooked a little bit too much. But with stem cells today, someone who is dying of kidney failure or kidney cancer, they could take a stem cell and they could create a new kidney for that person, or a new heart for the person who's dying of heart failure. And how many lives that could save with just cancer alone, it's unreal to think that people can create something from genetic engineering like that and save so many lives. The transplant list wouldn't even be necessary, only for last resort purposes. And like I said, there are a lot of cons, and I think there's a big reason to why it hasn't been pursued thus far. But the biggest thing is how the government, how can they let this happen? How are they going to regulate it? What's their plan? Well, with the many benefits, there are so many fears. And number one, it's risky. It's super risky. And scientists, we fear, maybe playing God. Well, is the government going to let parents control their, what they want their kids to be like? Do they want their kid to be athletic? Do they want their kid to have this eye color? I mean, it's that idea that scares people, and the idea of actual cloning really scares people. So I think that's probably why it's such a big deal. But the big question here is what's going to happen in the future. It's up to us. It's up to the young minds of today. And like I said, many studies are being done, like the one I found on slate.com was saying that they took malignant melanoma and they treated patients, and it's been extremely successful with gene therapy, and it's totally gone. The cancer's gone. So it's quite the concept. This could eventually be a cure for cancer, like I said, and it's too big to ignore. But the idea is that this therapy avoids collateral damage. It doesn't damage other cells, such as chemo does, or such as radiation does, where those, destroy so much, makes the patient sicker instead of helping them. So the biggest thing here is going to be the government and the people of the US, and it just needs to be pursued. And this is new reality. This is going to happen in the future. It's just when. It's not inhumane. It's just the way of the future. And as science advances, we need to work ourselves up. We need to work ourselves up to a newer, healthier country. And that's why it's such a big deal to me. But in the pictures I had, I actually had to print them out, but this is exactly what I was talking about. This is a trachea that they basically created with stem cells, and we're transplanting it into a patient, which is spectacular, or else that patient would die. And the other one I was talking about, this is a guy who had kidney failure and was getting gene therapy for that, and is now alive and healthy and well. And so I think it's up to us, and I think a lot of people don't know enough about it to have their own opinion. But